Chapter 9 of Mystery at Number 6. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Mystery at Number 6 by Augusta Huiell SEAMAN. Chapter 9. The White Flag. When at last they got around to the farmhouse, Bernice was completely out of breath, but she managed to pant. "This is very risky, Sid. Delight would not like it. They'll see us sure as anything. What's the matter, anyway? Are they all away?" "Just come along and see for yourself," he retorted, and led her boldly up to the front veranda. Hesitatingly she mounted the rickety steps. "I suppose they're all away somewhere. But, Sid, even if they are, we haven't any right to go into the house, have we? And besides, they may come back any minute. Come along and don't fuss," he ordered her. "You'll see for yourself when we get inside." Still doubting, she crept in after him and looked about. The first glance revealed nothing very different from what it had been in their earlier visit. There was the decrepit rocker by the empty fireplace. The rough table and the two other chairs stood in their usual positions. But a closer scrutiny revealed the subtle difference. Though this furniture was still in evidence, there was not a single sign of any more personal belongings in sight. Various little articles they had observed in their earlier visit were missing. A glance into the two little bedrooms disclosed the rude old beds bare of every vestige of mattress or covering. The kitchen beyond possessed no trace of cooking or eating utensils. Then at last the truth dawned on Bernice. "Sydney," she gasped, "they've gone." "Gone, cleared out, beat it," he averred. "Must have done it in a dickens of a hurry, some time between yesterday afternoon and this. Probably some time last night, it would be most likely." "But why should they have done it so suddenly? And Delight never said a word about it to us yesterday?" "Of course she didn't say a word, because the poor kid never knew a thing about it. I'd be willing to swear to that. Probably they were planning it and wanted to get her out of the way while they got ready. So sent her off on that long errand. Must have been some shock to her when she learned the news. But I can't understand why they did it. They've only just come here recently. Why move so soon again?" "Plain as the nose on your face. Jerry's afraid of that Mr. Tredwell. Wants to get out of his vicinity. Thinks, no doubt, that the gentleman will try to hunt him up. Naturally he doesn't feel safe around here any more. What do you suppose Jerry is afraid of him for?" cried Bernice. "If we knew that, we'd probably know the explanation of a lot of this mystery," answered Sydney sagely. "Then why not try to find out from Mr. Tredwell? Why not ask him right out if he knows anything about it?" demanded Bernice. "You forget your promise to Delight." Bernice clapped her hand to her mouth. "Oh, I did forget for a minute. Why, but this is maddening, Sydney. How in the world are we going to solve the mystery when we're so hampered by a promise like that? Perhaps it isn't intended that we should solve it. Perhaps it's none of our affairs." "But what about poor little Delight?" moaned Bernice. "For her sake, we surely ought not to give it up. She wanted to solve the mystery about herself. Think how she learned to read and all that, in order to do it. I'm just certain she must be heartbroken over this change." She glanced about the room again. "Perhaps they really haven't gone for good. See, they haven't taken the furniture with them. I've a very strong suspicion that this furniture went with the house and didn't belong to them anyway. They wouldn't be likely to cart heavy things like this around with them in their wanderings. And if they were going in such a hurry, they couldn't arrange to take it, of course, so that doesn't mean anything." Bernice continued to roam disconsolately about the forsaken rooms, hoping against hope to discover some clue to the mystery of this new development. "Wouldn't you think Delight would have tried to get word to us in some way, let us know she was going and where? She undoubtedly hadn't a ghost of a chance. Probably it was all sprung upon her when she got back here yesterday afternoon, maybe not till well toward night. What chance would she have to get word to us? I can just see them, scurrying around and packing up and loading their traps in the little mule wagon. The mule's gone too, of course. I looked in the shed outside, and hustling off in the darkness. You can warrant your last dollar that they left at night and got well away from here before morning so they wouldn't be seen on the roads in the vicinity. Sydney, where do you suppose they went? Would it be possible to trace them, to follow them?" "There's only one place they're aiming at, the Everglades, of course," declared Sydney. "That's the only spot where Jerry is safe, where he's pretty sure he can't be followed or found. But it will take them some time to get there, traveling in that mule wagon, if they are going to travel that way, and of course there are a dozen different routes they might follow. Yes, I presume they could be traced until they get into the Glades. But who's going to trace them, and why? I confess that I should have neither time nor opportunity nor sufficient cause to show for such a useless course." They went out and sat on the rickety veranda, many of whose boards were half rotted away or completely missing. Out beyond the straggling orange trees, the pool lay like a sheet of turquoise under the afternoon sky. But the charm of the spot had largely fled so far as Bernice was concerned now that the chief actor in the scene was gone. Suddenly she sat up very straight, inspired with a new idea. "Sydney, I'm simply certain that Delight never went away from here without trying to leave some sort of a message for us. Can't you see how likely it would be? Not only because she was growing quite fond of us, but also because we still have the package of papers that belong to her. Surely she would want them back some time. She would try to let us know where she was going and how to get them to her, perhaps." "Yes, it is likely," agreed Sydney after thinking it over judiciously. "But just how she could manage it is rather a puzzle. She simply couldn't send a message to us at Jasper. That's out of the question. She could write us a letter. She knew how to write. Why not?" "She knows how to write, yes. But think of the difficulty of trying to get a letter to us. In the first place, she undoubtedly had no envelopes or stamps. These she'd certainly have to get somewhere, and it's altogether probably she had no money. Then how would she get it in a post office without being discovered? No, I feel pretty certain it would never even occur to her to do it that way. But she might have written a note and left it around here somewhere, quietly after the others were out of the way, hoping we'd find it when we came." "Oh, fine!" cried Bernice, happy once more to have some thread, no matter how tenuous, to hold to. "I'm simply certain that is what she's done. Now let's get right to work and hunt this place over thoroughly, and I know we'll come across it." They began systematically, each taking a separate room, and went over every nook and cranny, hoping every moment to come upon the look for missive. But the search was fruitless. Then Sydney suggested that they exchange, each searching the rooms the other had gone over, in case some hiding place had escaped notice. This they did, with no more satisfactory result. The old house was empty of any clue that would lead to their further enlightenment. Again they went out on the veranda in despair and sat dangling their legs over the unrailed edge. "It's strange," said Sydney after a long silence, "but in spite of our not finding anything here, the more I think of it, the more certain I feel that she has left a message somewhere. We know it's not in the house. Let's just try to think where would be the most likely place she'd put the thing. Come to think of it, the house wouldn't be a good place, after all, for she'd always have run the chance of having it discovered before they left. Of course, Jerry couldn't read, and I rather doubt if the cracker woman could either, but they'd be sure to sense something queer about it." They both sat with their heads in their hands for some time, thinking with deep concentration of the problem they faced. It was Bernice who had the first idea. "Sid," she exclaimed radiantly, "what geese we are not to have thought of it before! Delight expected to meet us down by the big palmetto clump across the pool. Of course, that's where she's left the message." Sydney merely gave a grunt, expressive of thorough disgust at his own destiny, and shouting, "Come on, quick!" set off at a run for the point indicated. In due time they reached the great, spreading scrub palmetto clump. Bernice always said that these clumps reminded her of the expensive palms in the florist shops up north, the kind that was always used as decoration at weddings and parties. When she drove along the wild Florida roads lined with them, she said it made her feel as if they'd just been decorated for a ceremony of some festive kind. This clump was larger than usual, the great leaves falling over in such a way that they formed a tent-like appearance in its depths. "Look out how you search in there," warned Sydney. "These clumps are a great retreat for rattlesnakes, especially in this warm spring weather." They accordingly reconnoitred the ground with the greatest care before venturing to poke around much in the depths of the growth. But, finding no unwelcome occupants anywhere about, they boldly penetrated to its very depths. Nowhere about the bush did there seem to be the slightest sign of a communication, but a sudden whoop from Sydney, around at a farther side, brought Bernice to him at a run. "Look at that!" He pointed to a little twig not more than 5 or 6 inches high, sticking out of the ground a few feet away from the edge of the clump. It would never have been noticeable, except that a small white rag had been tied to the top in such a way as to wave out bravely on the breeze, like a miniature flag or signal. "Isn't it the queerest thing?" cried Bernice. "I sat here and gazed at that thing for 15 minutes while you were away, and while I thought it a little peculiar, it never dawned on me for a minute what it was really intended for. Of course, she meant to attract our attention to it in that way. Wasn't that clever of her? But come, let's dig down under it and see what's there." This time their search had its reward. Down in the fine white sand, only a few inches under the surface, they came upon the message Delight had left for them. It was a note written on a small and not very clean scrap of paper, a piece of a paper bag, in fact. The writing appeared to have been done with a piece of sharpened and charred wood. Doubtless she had possessed neither pen and ink nor pencil, and while the spelling was correct, the chirography was stiff and peculiar, showing a great lack of practice. "They are going away from here, for good," it began with marked lack of ceremony. "I do not know why, but I must go with them. Bernice, I love you. You have been my friend. You are both my friends. Keep the papers for me. They are safe with you, and I know you will not tell my secret. Perhaps sometime we will see each other again. If there is any way I can ever get a message to you, I will, but I do not hope for so much, for I know where we go, to the Everglades again. He says it is the only place we can live and be safe. I do not know why this has come so suddenly. He did not intend to go back. Something strange must have happened. There is no time to write any more. I hope you will find this. Bernice, if you will dig down further, you will find something I leave for you. It is all I have to give. I wish you to have it. I was so happy with you. My heart is breaking, but I can do nothing but go. Goodbye to you both. I will never, never forget you. Delight. They looked at each other without speaking when Bernice had finished reading it aloud. There was something deeply touching about the little message. It brought a lump into their throats. Bernice turned to dig down further in the hole where the note had been, and presently brought to light a long string of the light blue glass beads that the Seminole Indian women were so fond of wearing. She laid it in her lap and looked at it for a long moment. Then she put her head down on her knees and sobbed quietly, while Sydney walked away a bit and whistled a loud tune to escape, likewise indulging in any unmanly show of emotion. "There's no use, Sid," declared Bernice, getting up and wiping her eyes after an interval. "We just can't let that dear little thing go like this. You can't begin to think what a hold she's taken on me. Why, I feel almost as if it were a sister of mine that was being dragged away and hidden for some unknown reason. I've made up my mind to one thing. I'll keep my promise to her, of course, literally, but I'm going to spend every moment from now on solving this matter somehow or other. I'm simply sure it can be done." "Needless to say, I'm with you," agreed her cousin. "And what's more, I've a very distinct notion how it's going to be done." "Oh, have you, Sid?" cried Bernice, smiling up at him with eyes to which tears had again started. "That's great of you. What is your idea? I'm crazy to know." "The first step is to pump Mr. Tredwell as skillfully as possible about what he knows of Jerry Saw Grass, and then—" "But, Sid," objected Bernice, "you don't even know Mr. Tredwell yet. How are you going to get acquainted with him to begin with?" "Don't bother your head about that detail, Miss Conant," replied her cousin loftily. "The matter is already adjusted. Yours truly made that gentleman's acquaintance last evening in a long chat we had on the hotel veranda after you had retired to your downy couch." "Sydney Conant! And you never even told me. How did you do it and what did he say?" "I was keeping it a surprise. I got some information out of him that is going to be rather valuable, I expect. But I can't tell you now. It's growing late and we've got to be making tracks for home, and I must do a little tinkering with that self starter before we do. It's been bothering me this afternoon." Bernice slipped the beads into her handbag and trailed after him acquiescently enough as they made their way to the car, but her mind was a seething cauldron of questions and determinations and longing to meet again with Delight. They were almost ready to go when Sydney glanced up and beheld Ike Massey grinning at them from a palmetto clump not 50 yards away. Chapter 9